Alrighty then, it's time for a Hecarim game, and this one is using the newly buffed up Ghost Summoner spell. Which one? And my god, have I been enjoying it on a lot of champions. It's become very clutch. Which too. A lot of champions that I normally would take either Flash or Ghost, it's become basically Ghost 100%. Olaf, of course, he had the option of taking both, now it's 100% Ghost. Tryndamere, and of course Hecarim, as you can see here. For those that don't know, Ghost was recently buffed. Its cooldown has been reduced by 30 seconds, and it's been given a scaling effect. Basically, the more levels you have, the better it becomes. It's such a improvement. I mean, I'm surprised that it took that long for anyone to realize that that would have been a very good buff. So essentially, it's not going to replace Flash, but it's going to become a strong option for certain champions, and in fact, might become better for a few champions over Flash. Now, have seen that Ghost has been taken top lane and in mid lane, sometimes in a combination with Flash, so it's Flash and Ghost. Probably because having more movement speed artificially increases your dueling power and your killing power in some cases, and of course the relative safety of it. The reduced cooldown of it also allows you to survive a lot of shit and engage in battles and whatnot. Anyways, I gotta give a bit of a disclaimer. Some of you already, if you guys watched the other video, know that I got hospitalized the other day, so I'm still a little sick about that. So you might hear me be out of breath here and there. So just kind of bear through that with me. Anyhow, as you guys all know, Hecarim is one of my favorite carry champions. Not particularly one of my favorite champions to play, but one of my favorite champions to say, you know what, fuck it, I need to win right now. And he's all about momentum. And he's one of the few hyper snowballing champions in the game, particularly rare for a lot of junglers. I mean, Skarner was one of them, and Riot kind of nuked that shit part of him. I mean, nuked that part of him to the shitter. So Hecarim is still one of those rare occasions where if you snowball as Hecarim, you will fucking dominate this fucking game. So for this build, I mean, for the beginning of the game, I was going with Trinity Force, right? Just to be able to deal some damage and have some moderate utility when just all-around stat goodness. But because of how these early game fights are going and how a lot of gold is being spread everywhere, I'm going to be deciding to change my item build. I'm going to go for a pseudo-assassin one, basically so my hoof stomp can just smash anyone. Because if you've seen the map down there, Lucian is all by his lonesome and is basically being denied to heaven and hell. Alistair's basically been ditching him throughout the whole course of the game, and it's going to become rather... It was worrying me a lot if Lucian will be able to do anything. Normally when I play Hecarim, I try to go some damage, Trinity Force, and then tanky, that kind of shit, right? So I can at least have some killing potential, but I won't die completely instantly. But because of Lucian's the lane situation, I figured I'm going to be needing a little bit more power, either to assassinate the Draven or the Fizz before the fight begins, because my team doesn't really have a lot of killing potential without Lucian. We can melt the front line, we can do some crazy AoE shit, but we wouldn't be able to really kill the important targets. Now, this is one of the things I absolutely love about Hecarim, or at least one of the things that I really do value, is he has some incredible amounts of killing power. He's one of League's just straight out murder champions. He doesn't have a lot of utility. He doesn't really have a lot of tricks he can do. He's a very simplistic champion, but he's like a dive bomb. He's like a cruise missile, so to speak. His whole shtick, at least for the jungle, is just to snowball and just win the game. And he's like I said, he's a hyper carry. And he's unique in the whole carry aspect in that he's got a lot of self-utility, so to speak. He's pretty tanky with his W up. He can initiate to help him do some crazy-ass, long-ass burst combos and whatnot. That kind of shit is just... it's boner-inducing, right? There's not a lot of champions in the game that have as much carrying potential as he does. As you saw, that Lucian is getting kind of butt blasted, and he's really having no chance in hell of getting farmed up or beneficial to the game unless he gets super fed when we team fight. With Hecarim, I don't have to worry about that. If I picked anyone else, if I picked Maokai, Zac, or whatnot, I would be really worried about this game. But instead, because with the build I'm going to be taking and with the full-on power I'm going to be taking, I will be able to assassinate vital targets, and it gives me some sense of, relief, right? I don't have to rely on anybody. And that's probably one of the biggest selling points of Hecarim. He is probably one of the game's few champions where you can say, you know what, I can be a complete and 100% selfish dick, and it's totally fine. A lot of other champions, Zed and whatnot, they can't play like selfish assholes, but Zed doesn't have incredible initiation power and whatnot. So if he completely fucked over his initiator and his team or his support or whatever, and he goes in by himself, then there's nothing that's ever really going to happen. Hecarim, on the other hand, can do it all himself as long as he maintains his momentum. Like here, just how much damage I can do with just the few items I have. And of course, Fizz just didn't even try to fight back, but even if he did, I'd probably grind him to dust. That's one of the great aspects of Hecarim. His damage is combined, essentially. He's got great upfront burst as long as he's running at you with his E, and then he follows it up with great sustained damage. He just he becomes a blender. He hits you with a brick, puts you in a blender, and that's how he basically beats you. Like, watch this. My Alistair initiates, and then I bolt in with my E and then my ultimate to sort of do that knockback combo against the Mundo, and I chunked him for a huge amount of damage. Not enough to kill him with his ultimate, but quite a considerable amount. I don't think anyone else was around there, so that's why I went for it. And then a huge chaotic fight breaks out, and it's very disorganized. I'm not really sure what me and my team were trying to do. So we all sort of die eventually, but fortunately for us, the Brand is able to finish off the Draven, and then the Fizz chases the Brand, and the Brand is able to finish him off, and then for whatever reason, the Mundo gets a little too close right now, and just, fireball. So it was a 4v5, and we came out ahead on that, and it was just absolute chaos, and thankfully, the Teemo was able to push down towers by himself because they've just been ignoring his ass. So, yeah. Again, I strongly recommend you learn Hecarim if you want to actually carry. A lot of people ask me, Stonewall, how can I carry my games as a jungler if I play tanky champions, I play initiators, but I can't carry? The play Hecarim, he just does it all. He does everything that his team is supposed to do. His flaw really is, though, that he sort of can't be on even grounds with his opponents. But if you know how to play him and if you have a very aggressive mindset, then it doesn't matter. You can just shit on anybody. And if it gets to late game anyways, you'll probably be strong regardless. Anyways, right now, Fiddlesticks initiation. And I try to escape with my ultimate, but that was probably a waste. I should just accepted my death. Bran gets a really good ultimate on these champions. Unfortunately, they're the tankiest of the tanky from the enemy team. But fortunately for us, the enemy team rather splits up their attention and lets Lucian and Teemo get away. And then for whatever reason, Draven tries to 1v1 the Teemo, who just blinded his ass, so he really doesn't get any damage out, and dies for basically little effort. Fiddlesticks comes in and then dies to the Teemo. Teemo kills the Blitzcrank as well. Mundo comes in to face the Teemo, but you should realize you cannot fight the powers of goddamn Satan. So Teemo got himself a really nice triple kill, and then Lucian basically got reset. Lucian had one of the most shittiest times you can have in lane, right? But thanks to all the shenanigans where the enemy team sort of just leaves him alone, he's able to come back into the game. Anyways, here you saw me, I charged for Fizz for a lot of damage, but it wasn't perfect because he sort of dodged at the same time. But with me and Alistair here, he kind of has no chance in hell of making it out. And that's, again, one of the great traits of Hecarim. He actually has a surprising amount of burst for a champion in his sort of build. And I got to reiterate that he's a hyper carry. He's one of those champions that as he gets levels and as he gets farm, his value just multiplies. And with the changes on the Ghost, it just becomes so much better. Like, it just allows him to do more damage as the game goes on. It's sort of like it gave him another snowbally aspect to him. And that's what it is. Okay, I'll reiterate this. A lot of champions who snowball, all champions can snowball naturally, right? Because you get items and levels. But levels don't affect everyone the same as it does everybody, in terms of degrees at least. Some champions, when they get more levels, they get more efficient, they get a bit more damage and whatnot, and that's good enough. But levels for champions that deal sustained damage is actually a big goddamn deal. Which is why champions like Swain and Cassiopeia, or at least old Cassiopeia, became ridiculously brutal as they snowballed in levels, because their base damage on their thing is rather strong per rank, and if they can apply it quicker as they get more items and as they get the cooldown on it lowers as you get more ranks, it becomes very difficult for the enemy to sort of deal with it. And that's one of the things Hecarim has. He combines the burst that you would get stronger with items, or at least just stronger with also, I guess, levels, and his Q being his source of sustained damage, getting levels on it and whatnot, just allows him to just grind people down. So he hyper carries in that aspect. It just becomes too damn strong for the enemy to keep up. So just having like a couple or 1 or 2 levels of advantage against the enemy team becomes a big deal. Anyways, you saw me, I tried to stop Fiddlestick's ultimate, but even though that didn't work, me and Alistair essentially split them up. So Brand and the others get to survive, and I just make a beeline towards the Draven, and thanks to the Ghost, I was able to stomp his face in. So, hooray for me. Or actually, I don't even remember if I used Ghost. Never mind. But still, the enemy team is split up. They thanks to that split up by me and the Alistair, mostly the Alistair because he was able to CC them, we were able to just split them up and slowly pick them off one by one. And as you can see, thanks to that, we were able to start pushing ahead. Basically, put my team, for how haphazard and how weird it is, we were able to maintain momentum and just roll with it. And again, that's just like the golden spot, or the best situation for Hecarim, pure momentum. So if you're gonna learn Hecarim, you're gonna have to learn to maintain that. Look, basically only focus wherever a cheap kill is or something is. You got to make sure to get the kills and the levels and whatever, and hog everything. He's one of those few champions who it's fine to be an asshole with. Anyhow, as you can see, the fights are still brewing. Once again, the enemy team, though, is split up. They're focusing on Alistair, and then I just go into the Fizz and I grind him down. You see I did quite a bit of damage with my E, and then I use my ultimate and finish him off. Then, of course, these two focus on me instead of protecting their lanes and whatnot. As a result, it's allowed at least my teammates to sort of control the map a little bit. Unfortunately, since we were also split up, I didn't get to watch my teammates, but according to the chat when we were playing in game, they sort of messed up. I think the Lucian was apologizing. Oh shit, my bad. So it's rather unfortunate, but still, thanks to the Teemo's absolute map control and ridiculous amount of split pushing that he did, we're pretty much guaranteed this win now. All we got to do is just wait for the right opportunity to show up, and either me or the Alistair get a good initiation on someone. Here, the enemy team engages on us, but once again, they sort of split up their squishies and the really easily kiteable targets. So I go up against the Fiddlesticks, I kick his ass, Fizz goes on me, and instead of fighting him, I know I'd lose this one, mostly because I burned all my abilities on everybody else. I just run the fuck away. And with that, the enemy team, once again, because they were split up, lost. I don't know, if you want to take this as a lesson, stop splitting the fuck up. No matter how strong your team composition might be in team fights, or how weird and confusing your opponent's team comp might be, remember, your team comp is only strong as a group if that's the case. So individually, you all suck ass. So don't try to fight by yourselves, which is what the enemy team kept doing. So hooray for Hecarim, and hooray for the newly buffed Ghost. I love it. Alrighty guys, I've restarted my Teespring campaign, and my voice check t-shirts are once again available. Click the link in the description below to take a good look at them and decide if you want to obtain one for yourself. My channel is made possible by the help of sponsors like Loot Crate and Crunchyroll, and the continued support of fans like you. Click the links in the description below to check out my sponsors, and make sure to give a like and leave a comment below to help stimulate the growth of the channel.